folks, and this is our podcast for the week of April the 14th, 2021. We are recording here at our Hook Outdoors retail location located on Cave Run Lake, just outside of Moorhead, Kentucky, and we're going to talk a little fishing today and talk about what the lake's doing right now and what we're kind of looking forward to in the next week or so. So with that, we'll get right to it. Cave Run Lake right now sits at 737.9 feet of elevation, which is basically 7.9 feet above Summer Pool. They're pulling it at 4,346 CFS with an inflow of 1,326 CFS, which gives you a net of about 3,000. So, they're dropping it probably about 6 inches a day, something like that, 6-8 inches. It would be my guess. So not a real hard pull, but enough. Water temps are being found from upper 50s to low 60s most places around the lake. We've had, or we're right, I would say, in the midst of the next day or two, a small cold front coming in, so I don't think we'll lose anything, but I don't think we're going to gain anything over the next few days. Water clarity is on the upper ends of the lake. The lake's in real good shape in the Poppin' Rock area, up Beaver Creek, up the river, North Fork, up through there. It's in real good shape. The main lake is, would you say, stained still?
It's got a little bit of a stain to it, but it's nothing crazy. I can still see, being out the past 2 days, I could still see at least 2 feet in most places, sometimes 3. So it's still got a good, decent little stain, but still really good visibility.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was. And the great thing of it is we haven't had a whole lot of rain here the last week or two or so. So the lake is clearing up. So that's good. And we'll just get right to the fishing. With the water warming up and the lake getting down to where it's more fishable, there's more areas that you can get to fish. There's just more anglers out, so it's giving us a better idea of what's going on. A lot of guys are catching crappie right now. I know our bait sales have picked up, but not just that. You can go to our Hook Outdoors Facebook page, and people are starting to post pictures and that kind of thing. A lot of crappie being caught. Surprisingly, though, they're deeper than what I thought. They're anywhere from 12 to 18 feet from what I'm hearing, which is... I just thought they would be a lot shallower than that. But anyways, everyone says that they're deep like that, and they are tight in the brush, just right in the middle of a big, thick treetop. So minnows are the bait of choice so far, but I am noticing a lot of, it seemed like the 2-inch little curltail grubs, chartreuse, and the white ones seem to be going out the door here. Anyway, at least this week anyway. Catfish, I'm just now starting to see people really starting to get out and catfish. I know there's a ton of pay lake stuff going on right now, but it's kind of a live bait deal. We've been selling a lot of goldfish and suckers here. I think they're doing a decent amount of spillway fishing, but now it's down on the lower end of it where the water is kindly leveling out and losing some of its froth and some of its current. So that's something to keep in mind if you come here. There is some bank fishing going on for the catfish right now. As the lake goes down, there's more bank areas that are accessible. I think some people are walking in somewhere up around like the Clay Lick ramp and parking alongside the road. Even though the ramp is closed, that's still an area that, you can walk into. I think that the Paragon area is still closed, but from what I'm hearing, they're going to try to get all that cleaned up and opened up here within the next 2 weeks. The Poppin' Rock ramp is open. I thought it was closed, but I heard they opened it up last Friday, I believe. So if you're coming to Cave Run, you can go to Poppin' Rock and put in. You can get in the parking lot at Longbow Marina at the end of Beaver Creek, but there's still, probably a foot or two of water in it, and there's trees and trash and everything, so the ramp's hard to locate. So, you kindly do that at your own risk. But right now, I know Warwick's is still closed and Clay Lick is still closed. So, but I would give them a couple of weeks, and they'll probably have those open too. But they're going to have to do some work there. There's a lot of filth that's washed in that's going to have to be removed. The muskies, just like every other fish, the bite's starting to pick up on them. We do have the big PMTT, the Professional Muskie Tournament Trail, rolls into town next week. Pretty big field from what I'm hearing. I know our lodging here, we're booked and have been booked for a while, and typically that's a sign that there's a lot of guys coming. There's been a pretty good rattlebait bite going here lately. Been a tremendous amount of trolling going on. Things like the Luncheon 22 shorts and that sort of thing. Haven't heard a whole lot of any kind of a topwater, like a glide bait deal or anything like that. But if it was to heat up next week, that may activate that topwater bite. We'll just have to see. But so far, and there's been these a big tube bite, these red October tubes and that kind of thing. I've heard some people catching fish on those, so we'll just have to see. And we'll just have to see what's going on. But I just think that this weather's getting really consistent anymore, and as long as this rain holds off and they can get this lake level under control and it clears out some, I think we're going to have a pretty good spring. At least that's what I'm hoping for anyway. So we'll just have to see. And Evan's going to jump in here and give us a little bit of a lowdown on the bass fishing. And then we're going to just maybe talk a little bit more about how things went for him at Dale Hollow and some of the upcoming tournaments he's got going on here and what's going on at some of these other lakes.
Yeah, so the bass fishing, it's finally getting started here. There's starting to be tournaments. We've seen USA Bassin started their season off. The NTBA Skeeter Trail, they started their season off last weekend, so everything's starting to get rolling. Mm-hmm. Tournament weights, you're not seeing major huge bags yet, but still consistent, decent bags. It's still taking around that about 10-pound mark to win tournaments down here. So the overs are being caught. It's getting to that time of year though. They're wanting to live shallow. The water, it's getting close to almost that perfect number to where there's just enough bushes in the water to make it to where it's easy to fish, but there's still plenty of cover for the fish to live in. The fish are up in the bushes. They're up shallow, not really just bushes, but you can still find fish on laydowns and standing timber and all that stuff. But the fish are up shallow, backs of creeks, things like that. Your best baits are still going to be, spinner baits, square bills, your traditional springtime baits, flipping a jig or something like that. With the water temperature finally getting up around, 58, 59, and even day before yesterday, I did find a consistent, 60 to 61 degree pocket. Those fish they're thinking about spawning. They're getting up shallow. They're starting to kind of group up, like they're wanting, like a buck and a female are kind of starting to get together a little bit. So they're starting to get there. Give it another. With the weather, probably another week to 2 weeks, and you'll start to, especially with this water being, pretty clear. Mm-hmm. Normally you couldn't really see them too good, but with this water being, cleared up a little bit, you should start to be able to see a few fish on beds, probably in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, folks, we hope. Like we said, I hope this weather just stays consistent and these fish just keep getting a little bit hotter and hotter. I know there's been a pretty good bite this past week. And we're going to move from that, and Evan's kind of going to give us a lowdown on his last BFL on Dale Hollow and how things went for him and what the fish were doing down there. And then we'll I think he's got another high school tournament coming up, so we're just kind of going to talk about that a minute and just see where the conversation leads to today. So, Ev, how'd you do down at Dale Hollow this last week?
Yeah, this past weekend I went back down to Dale Hollow, down in Byrdstown, Tennessee, northern Tennessee and southern Kentucky. It was the second stop of the Mountain BFL Trail. I think I ended up like 119th, so had a kind of a flub tournament, but somewhere in the middle of the pack, there's the normal. I don't know the exact number, somewhere around 200 or a little bit north of 200 boats. So ended up somewhere in the middle of the pack. So not an amazing tournament, but still didn't blow up my season either. So it was just that tournament there was just I didn't execute right. Had a lot of lost opportunities that really costed me. Can't really put that on anything but myself, though. You can't really blame it on anything or anything like that. So that's it's just one of those things. I lost several quality fish around the 3 pound mark. So, and I seen all of them too. It wasn't like I just got a bite and missed it and said, oh, that was a 3 pounder.
Yeah.
I got it up to the boat and seen it was a 3 pounder, and it just things weren't going my way. I had that. I actually pulled into a pocket that I found in practice that I caught a good one and shook off 3 or 4 more good ones in it. In just a stretch of 20 yards. And when I made my way back down the lake to that spot, it was somewhere around noon or so. I pulled in there and got all the way in the back of the creek. Flipped in there. First flip, caught a 2 pounder. The next flip caught one probably around 3.5, and I was like, okay, we're gonna get on them here. They're still here. Went down the bank, probably another 5 yards, flipped into a bush, lost one probably around 2 pounds. Went maybe another 5 yards down the bank, lost one right at the boat that was well over 3, and then ran way back down the lake. I was up in the Obey River, and I ran way back down the lake towards Star Point. And I looked at my G3 maps on my Garmin's, and I seen there was a shallow pocket that had a couple shallow creeks and points and all that stuff in it. And I figured that'd be a really good place with pre-spawn. They're wanting to live shallow and get up on shallow transition banks and all that stuff. Pulled in there, very first thing, lost a 3 pounder on a spinnerbait, and then caught another short fish. So that was kind of what happened to me. Also I for some reason, when I'm talking to people about this tournament, I completely forget too that the first creek I pulled into, I lost 2 more, and the first fish of the morning, I lost it. I didn't see it. I just kind of seen the wake, and I'm gonna guess it wasn't a big, and it was like 2.5 pounder maybe.
It was a keeper though.
It was a keeper. Yeah, it would have helped me. I ended up having 3 for 6.12, but it's just one of those things. I had the opportunity to have 13 or 14 pounds and put me in contention to get a check. So, but it's one of those things. It's one of those things.
You'll have tournaments like that, man. You'll just have them. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I would rather have had those fish on and lost them, and just know that that I was on the fish. I just couldn't get them in the live well. Versus just going out there and banging around for 8 or 9 hours and just not finding just nothing.
Right.
Blanking the whole day, not getting a bite or anything. So, I don't know if that gives you any satisfaction or not. But, you did have the fish.
I had the bites to be, somewhere in the top, 50 or so. Yeah. So it's just one of those things, even with the 119th place finish, I'm still in 50th in points. Where I had a good first tournament in the Mountain Series. I had a 23rd place finish back in March, so that kind of saved my butt there. So I'm still sitting 50th in points.
Why you reckon you lost the fish? I mean, just not good hook sets. I mean, were they just biting funny? I mean, I know that's kind of a weird question, but you see these guys all the time, and watching these Elite Series tournaments and stuff on TV, and they'll be like, they'll be reeling in. It's like, oh, well, he's hooked real good, or like, oh, he's not hooked very good, and wanting him to stay on and all like that. I mean, was it the way they were biting, or just one of those things?
It wasn't a thing of how they were biting, because they were, I'd pick up my rod, or I'd flip into a bush, I'd let it fall to the bottom, I'd pick up my line, and it would be 5 yards away from where I just flipped. Like, I mean, they were eating it really good. I'm not going to name the company of the hook, but it's just a certain style of flipping hook that I was using. Like, it was a flipping hook, just that heavy gauge, thick, sharp hook that people used to flip with. And what happened to me was, when you're flipping, you're throwing a 7-foot heavy rod. You're throwing a broomstick of a rod, because you have to get those fish out of, crazy heavy cover. And I'm also throwing 20-pound line, which has 0 give at all. So when I flip into a bush and I hit one with 20-pound line and a heavy rod, that big old gauged heavy flipping hook, it puts too big of a hole in the fish's mouth. And like when I jerk on one, you set the hook hard when you're flipping. Like you mean to get them out of that bush when you set the hook. and when you boom on one, and then it just puts too big of a hole in the fish's mouth, and that creates leeway for that hook to just kind of fall out.
Is that why you see like these guys that are drop shotting with these small hooks and that kind of setup, where those hooks are just a smaller gauge and sharp as razors? They don't seem to lose fish as much. And they just don't, and especially now with the braids that they use and the fluorocarbon line, and the lines are just tougher. They don't break off either. Is that why you see these guys that are like doing these drop shots and these finesse deals with these smaller hooks? Just because they're just sharp, and it doesn't make that big place, and it's easier to keep that hook set.
Right, yeah. Even the ones that I caught still had a big old, a gash in their mouth where I set the hook. So
okay.
when I got home from that tournament, it wasn't until after the tournament I kind of realized. I said, "Hey, stupid! You should have put on a normal, like an EWG, just a normal hook, like a not like a light wire 3-dot EWG, but just a heavier wire EWG that just wasn't a beast of a hook like I was throwing."
Sure.
And I made that adjustment on Cave Run day before yesterday, and I caught 20 and lost one.
Yeah, every one of them.
Stuck every one. And the one I lost just wrapped me up a million ways in a bush. So I mean, that's just kind of, you can't really blame that on anything there. It just, you would have lost it on anything. It just wrapped me up in a bush.
Granted, you didn't cash your check as such, but that is something you've learned, and I think that lesson may serve you more valuable down the road as you progress in your fishing career.
Right.
And everything. You'll think about that the next time.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing there. I'm glad that I learned it now instead of having say like I got lucky and got those bites in the boat, and then realized, hey, that's putting a massive, even if I got them in the boat and I said, hey, they got a massive gash in their mouth, but hey, I got them in the boat, it doesn't matter. I lost them, so I was like, I realized what it's doing. And down the road, maybe like in Friends of Cave Run or something like that, which I who knows if I'll be flipping or doing, you ain't got a clue what I'll end up be doing. You never know. But say if I would have caught all those fish, and for some reason, if there was a flipping bite in Friends of Cave Run, I would realize, hey, stupid, remember what happened at Del Hollow back in April? You lost, 14 pounds of fish and cost you, a lot of points. Put you an EWG hook on and go catch all of them.
And that takes me back to where we talked about, the different styles of culling systems, and the ones that are basically clamps like you use versus the ones that are actually put a hole in their mouth and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. I kind of run in with those puncture cull tags down there at Del Hollow. My co-angler, he had two of them. I think my co-angler had like 5 pounds or something like that. I can't really remember, but he had two fish. And both of them he caught. He flipped them in the boat and all that stuff. And he got out his cull tags, and I wasn't really paying attention. And I was just up there. I was up there doing my thing. I was just, flipping, going down the bank, just kind of in my own little zone. And I heard that big old, that cull tag going in that fish's mouth, and I just cringed. I just cringed all over. I was like, oh my gosh, you can't be doing that. And then I paid attention on the next one. The next one he put in the box, I heard that big old pop of that cull tag going through that fish's mouth again, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I should have just gave him my cull tags to use, because God, that just doesn't say. And there's actually a rule in Major League Fishing that you're supposed to use non-puncture cull tags, but I wasn't gonna. You can't really say anything, but some people are just they got what they got and they're going to use it. So.
It's about the it's just about the fish. I mean, if you hurt them up enough and they don't bite anymore, maybe they don't feed anymore, and then it's just bad all around. Well, what about this high school deal you've got coming up here?
Yeah, this weekend it's April 17th, going out of Cave Run. It's the gosh, I've fished so many of these tournaments. It's like the sixth or seventh Eastern Kentucky SAF high school tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It's a national qualifier for the high school national championship on Lake Hartwell.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
we're coming to Cave Run this weekend. You know, got several of my buddies coming down to fish it. So it's usually a pretty good group of guys that fish. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
It's good to be on my home pond though. I can just kind of sleep in my own bed for a change.
Yeah.
On a tournament this past month, I've been at a tournament somewhere down in Tennessee or Southern Kentucky or Cumberland or something like that for the past, it seems like 5 or 6 weeks. But
You're living the life, man.
living on the road.
Yeah, that's
No, it's fun though. It's fun to be on the home pond. I like fishing Cave Run now, especially I'm in my comfort zone out here.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I like to do. I'm a shallow water power fisherman, so I'm kind of in my zone. I'm just up there. I'm fishing comfortable. That's the biggest thing when you're fishing tournaments is being comfortable where you're at.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable where you're at and you can fish confidently you can fish so much better when you're comfortable,
Yeah.
as opposed to just doing something you don't like. Say you're a shallow water fisherman, tried and true. You like flipping, pitching, doing all that stuff, throwing a spinner bait and crankbait.
Right.
And you get out there and you get on, say, Cumberland or something like that, and you get out there and start dragging Ned rigs and all that stuff.
Right.
Some people just aren't comfortable doing that.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned fishing tournaments and doing all that stuff is just fish your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Fish what you like to do, fish what you think that you're good at, and you'll 9 times out of 10 get more bites. I mean, I'm not saying if you go to like St. Clair or something like that in June to go flip bushes for largemouth, because I mean,
Yeah.
it's you kind of have to go smallmouth fish there,
Yeah.
but it's just one of those things. Like if you're on a mountain reservoir like Dale Hollow or Cumberland, you don't have to go fish for smallmouth and deep fish and all that stuff like a lot of people think. They think all Cumberland is just a big old deep hole of water, and when you get on the bank, you're in 950 feet of water. Which I mean, some places, I mean, you're half the time. Well, most of the good bags I've caught on Cumberland have been out of 40, 50 feet of water. So I mean, it's just you kind of have to learn to do it. But there's still places and times where you can go down there and I can still fish my comfort zone.
Right.
And I can get up shallow and I can flip and throw a spinner bait and do all that stuff.
How many boats you think will be here? You think they have a decent field?
I'm gonna guess probably 15,
Okay.
maybe 15, or
Okay.
it could be 20. I know of several boats that are coming this time that haven't been coming to like Cumberland and Laurel, just because of their school. They've been kind of with the corona and all that stuff. Their school has kind of butted heads with them and all that stuff, and told them not
Right.
to travel. But
Yeah.
where it's on Cave Run now and it's close to where they're at, they're sending 4 or 5 teams, or sometimes even I've seen this certain county they've sent like 7 or 8 boats at a time. So if that's the case, we could be somewhere north of 20. I'm hoping so. The more boats that we get in total in these tournaments equals the more national championship spots that we get to take at the end of the year based on the points.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. All right. Well, folks, that's kind of going to wrap it up for today. We've got an interview scheduled for next week. I'm supposed to be talking with one of the muskie biologists from the State Department of Fish and Wildlife. I don't know exactly what day that'll be, but I'm hoping to get it in the can before the PMTT gets started next week. I think that'll be a pretty good deal and everything. And, the weather's pretty good here. Like I said, there's a little bit of a cool front, but we're supposed to be rain-free for the next little bit. So, make a trip down here and check out the lake and check out our store and everything. We'll try to help you catch fish if we can. And like we like to say here, folks, just get outdoors with Hook Outdoors.